Yeah, we'll do. We'll stand in there. Yeah,
Okay. Just so I can set everything up.
so
Test 1, 2. Test 1, 2.
I'll take a video for our guys, just so they know about setting up out here.
Yeah. So, this one is okay?
Yeah.
So what you do, hold, I'm going to turn it off now.
Yeah.
I've done the test already.
Help us level the playing field. Sign the parliamentary petition today to fuel the growth and fund the game.
Welcome to round 3 of the Senol NPL Victoria on a very warm Sunday afternoon at the Control Cyber Campus at Casey Fields, also known as the Melbourne City Academy, and it's going to be a great game with two of the teams that have started in the better of forms, you could say, across the Senol NPL for 2026. It's Melbourne City's NPL youth team taking on the Preston Lions, and joining myself, Bryce Ruthven, in commentary this afternoon is Demir Koulis. Demir, what a game we are looking forward to this afternoon.
Yeah, it's a pleasure to be here, Bryce. Thank you for that warm introduction. You look at the quality with both teams. There's plenty of players here with pedigree and also a lot of promising young players, not just in the Melbourne City team, but also in the Preston team, who've potentially got a point to prove. Have started the season off quite well and will ultimately be a formidable opposition to a young Melbourne City team that has started off quite well in the top flight, 4 points from their opening 2 games. You just about couldn't have asked for a better start from them.
And as both teams greet each other on this magnificent-looking surface here at Control Cyber Campus. We'll take a look at the team, starting with the away side. Preston Lions. In goals, their captain, number 1, Ryan Scott. Number 2, Dom Felino. Number 4, Jamal Ali. Number 5, Aidan Bryce. Number 7, Leighton Brooks. Number 9, Jason Romero. Number 13, George Malidis. Number 17, Nike Satu. Number 20, Zach Chianci. Number 32, Stefan Negro. Number 80, Sian Cuba. On the bench for the Lions in number 6, Emil Peps. Number 10, Jonas Markovsky. Number 11, Stefan Zini. Number 15, Matt Bozanovsky. Number 77, Gian Albano. And number 99, Mayan Mayan. They are coached, of course, by Zoran Markovsky. And the home side for Melbourne City, a couple of changes from their side that got 3 points at Frank Holohan last Friday night. In goals, their goalkeeper, Lockie Charles. The captain in number 3, Ryan Carms. Number 4, Jaden Nasovsky. Number 5, Matthew Baker. Number 6, Angus McIntosh. Number 8, Christian Polozidis. Number 9, Tobias Servin. Number 10, Beckham Baker. Number 20, Lawrence Wong. Number 23, Bessian Kulshi. And number 29, off the back of 2 goals last weekend, Ben Mazzeo. On the bench for the boys in blue this afternoon, number 2, Peter Ansenu. Number 11, Akeem Gerald. Number 12, Isaiah Boston. Number 14, Roland Bella. Number 19, Luke Beck-Vanovsky. And number 67, Sam Robson. Of course, coached by Stuart McDonald.
Yeah, just going through both those starting 11s and even benches, there's a lot of quality on display, and it's probably the premier fixture of this round. I know it's been quite an interesting round from a results standpoint, but in terms of 2 informed teams who have started this season off with a bang, obviously with Preston, it's not reflected on the ladder due to that points deduction, but going 2 from 2 and looking quite convincing last week against St Albans, they'll be looking to get another 3 points here today.
And as Demir just alluded to, it is probably the fixture of the round, considering the 3 points that Melbourne City got on the road last week in Dandenong against a very strong Dandenong City side. Preston Lions starting on a minus points deficit. They have already crept it back up to even on the Senol NPL ladder. So we are in for a great game, and we're underway courtesy of Jason Romero, coming all the way back to Aidan Bryce. And as we mentioned before, the team lineups, the surface here at the Melbourne City Academy in fantastic condition for 2 sides that really do like to play their football on the deck. So in for a great game, as we can see Angus McIntosh just anchoring the midfield like he did last weekend. A change from last Friday night's side at Dandenong City is the centre-back Liam Bonatig got the call-up to the A-League squad over in Auckland last night. Yes, the A-League side for Melbourne City going down over at Mount Smart Stadium.
Well, Bryce, you had the pleasure of calling Melbourne City in last week's 4-2 win over Dandenong City. What stood out most for you from that team, as we'll stay with play with Polozudis on the ball?
Yeah, Polozudis in that far corner enters the box, and it's not a bad ball across, looking for Benny Mazzeo, who of course did get a brace last weekend in that round 2 clash. And the one thing that did stand out for Melbourne City was just they were fearless in the way that they wanted to play. They were tested at times by a very mature Dandenong City squad and always held the lead, but it was one of those signs that you keep an eye out for, Demir, when you've got a younger side that's maturing and playing against men, that how they're going to handle when that pressure comes with that just a 1-goal buffer. But they always manage to just remain calm and stick to their game and really force Dandenong City to play Route 1 football. So we'll see how we go. They're definitely up against probably the most experienced side in the Senol NPL this year. I think the one word I described to you was it's a pretty stacked side, isn't it, to me, when you look at it on paper?
Well, it's not just the starting 11. I mean, you and I were looking at that bench, and apart from it being quite experienced from a coaching staff standpoint with the likes of Zoran Markovsky, Jeff Fleming, Peter Zoyce, Sash Rognanovsky on the bench, you've also got the likes of Matt Bozanovsky, Emil Payos, Jonas Markovsky, a former Golden Boot winner, Stefan Zini, who's terrorised defenders for almost a decade in this competition. They've got plenty of firepower on the bench should they need it.
Lawrence Wong playing that number 10 role for Melbourne City. A man of the match performance last weekend away from home. He's a man that has featured in the A-League men's squad here at Melbourne City from time to time, so definitely keep an eye out for him. Wearing the number 20 shirt for Melbourne City today.
Yeah, when you look at this Melbourne City starting 11, there's 4 players who have played in the A-League so far in their young careers, but even when you look at the likes of Ryan Carms and the man who just cleared the ball, Jaden Nikovsky, they might be quite young, 19 and 17 respectively, but, you know, Carms is into his 4th season of senior football, Nikovsky's into his 3rd season of senior football. They've got plenty of games under their belt, and they're not going to be overawed by the occasion of playing one of the most formidable teams in the competition and the fan base that Preston necessarily always brings, as we see referee Michael Uliaris telling Zach Chianchi that there wasn't much of a foul there.
And it's going to be interesting to see Ben Mazzeo last week. He had the run of that right wing all to himself against Dandenong City, but today he's coming up against possibly the best backline in the Senol NPL Victoria this season, at least in terms of experience anyways. We see Lawrence Wong drive forward. He finds Beckenbaker, and as the box gets a shot away, and Ryan Scott, safe hands in the all-pink jersey this afternoon, Demir.
Yeah, Ryan Scott, probably a bit too overqualified for this competition, given his experience, but he was a fantastic pickup for Preston halfway through last campaign and really played a big role in them finishing the season off strongly and making the semi-finals of the 25 Senol NPL Victoria season. Of course, they lost to Heidelberg 2-1, but given they were a newly promoted team, that probably exceeded expectations, given how well they placed towards the back end of the season.
It'll be the first corner of the game this afternoon. Whipped in to the front post. Not dealt with just yet. And it's off the post. Safely into the hands of Ryan Scott. The first chance of the afternoon. If that's a sign of things to come, Demir, we're in for an exciting 90 minutes.
Yeah, Bestian Kudleshi did well to find himself in space, had a bit of time as his backwards header has been chased there by Suto, but Nikovsky did well enough to prevent any danger. But yes, Kudleshi with the shot, and luckily for Preston, comes off the post and safely away.
Mahalides comes back to Jamal Ali, playing in more of a central position across the back line. Of course, all Senol NPL Victoria fans well accustomed to Jamal Ali, wherever he's played, in a customary right back position, particularly last year with Heidelberg United. Probably the most informed defender of the competition last season. And he's turned it over. Some good pressure there from Tobias Servin, coming into the starting lineup this week after an impressive performance in his 30-minute cameo last weekend in round 2.
I'm looking forward to this 1v1 duel between Kudleshi and Chianchi. Chianchi, rapid start to the season, comes on against Oakley in round 1, immediate impact with that brace. Match-winning brace, might I add. Had a good game last week as well, and he's definitely started life in the top flight like a natural. Of course, he's a player who spent last season at the Bulleen Lions in the 2nd tier before playing championship minutes for Avondale, which is where Zoran Markovsky recruited him from. But he does have prior top flight experience with NWSL Spirit back in 24.
Lawrence Wong drives, gets a shot away. Just can't get the right amount of purchase on that one, but again, getting into good areas is Lawrence Wong.
And the player that Chianchi's up against, Kudleshi, I mean, he might only be 17, but you've got a player there who's not only played now half a dozen A-League games, but he's also been thoroughly impressive both at an international level for the Joeys and also in this competition in the past, or at this level with firstly City back when he made his debut 2 years ago, but most recently West United as well.
Ben Mazzeo. He's got the ball and he just can't quite find Lawrence Wong with that second pass. Force it wide. Chance to drive forward here, Leighton Brooks. He's got some pace. He puts an early ball across to Romero. He brings it down. Tries to get on his favoured foot, if he's got one. Comes out wide to Cuba. Intercepted to Negro. Plays it out wide. Chanchi comes back to Miladis. To Ali. And Preston doing very well to find the gaps in this Melbourne City defensive line. Brooks can drive it in. He whips it across early. Over the head of Romero, and it comes wide and it's turned over quite cheaply. Stefan Negro finds a space. Comes all the way back to Felino. Brook in short. And it'll be the first corner with shouts of handball from the Preston fans in the far corner. But the first real attacking play we've seen of Preston so far, Demir, in the opening 10 minutes, and it was one of patience.
Yeah, well, I just mentioned Kutleshi v Chianchi on the left wing, but even on the right wing, Brooks up against Baker, who's just 16, probably be one of the more formidable tests that he's had at this level. Of course, he would be exposed to A-League training and he's played against some pretty tricky customers himself, but Brooks can definitely do the business for Preston.
Cuba floats to the back stick off the head of Aiden Bryce, dealt with at the moment by Melbourne City. A chance for Beckham Baker just to knock it out in a pretty gusty Casey Fields. To be fair, it's always pretty gusty out here if you've been out to the facility. It's an amazing facility, but it's one thing that you know you're going to be battling here is not only the home side, but the winds that you get, which can quite often be gale force.
Look, better we're calling this game on the last day of summer than deep into the winter and deep into the season, because you're probably going to get weather that's much worse than this and much more impactful. It'll be interesting to see if either team is affected by today's humid conditions. I imagine City would be pretty fit, but based on what we've seen from Preston over the course of the first 2 weeks, they're a very fit team themselves. And when you've got the likes of Zinni and Albano and Markovsky to come off the bench, you've got pace to burn.
As Demir just alluded to, it is quite a warm afternoon here at the Control Cyber Campus in Casey Field, still sitting on 28 degrees. And tell you what, yesterday was humid, today's still a bit the same. So it's one of those days that you pray for winter a bit earlier than not, as the ball switched across and a good interception there from Kudleski. And it's just a good time to take a look at the other games that have happened across the round, which we'll give you the score update as we approach half-time, as Ben Mazzeo does his defensive duties quite well.
Yeah, we've spoken about the hot start that Preston have made. One player who's looked quite impressive in the centre of that midfield is George Michailidis. The youngest member of the team is 19, as Baker on the ball.
Lawrence Wong working in quite well with his target man in Serban. Jamal Ali drives across the halfway line. He's only got the option on the right to where he tries to get it to, and it eventually finds the intended target. And Romero probably just a step off the pace there, maybe just caught flat-footed.
Yeah, that's been an interesting thing with Preston. Going back to last season, they've got a number of impressive players who can play in that number 9 position, whether it's Romero, you can play Brooks there, Markovsky off the bench, but no one's really seized the mantle of the number 9 shirt at Preston and really gotten themselves into double figures.
Ball comes in. No one really a proper option. And Negro, ambitious effort, and it takes a deflection on the route to goal, and it's going to be a second corner.
See a lot of rotation in that number 9 role for Preston last campaign. The likes of Romero and Markovsky and Luke Francis as well did have their moments without any of those three developing the consistency that they probably would have liked to be a week-in, week-out starter. I know Markovsky would probably be looking to get back to the heights of 23 when he was the competition's Golden Boot winner at Altona Magic.
The ball comes in, driven again to the back post from Cuba, looking for Aiden Bryce. And Melbourne City just doing enough for the time being Shot blocked from Lawrence Wong. Mazzeo cops a heavy challenge. Aiden Bryson, he's not happy as well. To be fair, I'd say it was a fair challenge. It is going to be the first yellow card of the afternoon for Aiden Bryce.
One of the advantages of calling from this position, this tower at Control Cyber Campus here, City Football Academy, is that you're right in the thick of it. You can hear both benches quite well, and Zoran Markovski was not happy with that decision to give Aiden Bryce the yellow, who, I must say, his eyes were on the ball. He was high, and he was stopping a breakaway, so that would be referee Michael Uliaris' rationale for giving out a yellow card there.
Yeah, Markovski not happy, as you said. To be fair, probably could have done with a talking to, but it was a pretty strong challenge. As Beckham Baker looks to find the intercept pass for Sermon, but instead finds Lawrence Wong. They come all the way back, just to reset. McIntosh doing well in that holding position. Had a good game last weekend against Dandenong City. Wong finds a space really well. Baker. And Preston happy to hold off, and the ball comes deep to the back post, and Benny Mazzeo, not the tallest player out there, and it just sails over for a goal kick.
Yeah, it's second time so far in this game that Polizudis has looked for Mazzeo, the back post, and you're right, he isn't the tallest, not much of an aerial threat, but Mazzeo would be looking to obviously dominate this competition given the extensive game time he's received at an A-League level.
Well, having called this game of Melbourne City last Friday night, Demir, you can already see a bit of a defensive restructure from that round 2 game against Dandenong City. A lot higher press than they did last weekend against the Croatians from Endeavour Hills. As the ball comes in from Mazzeo, it's not a bad option. Comes through, no penalty. It's played on. McIntosh sends the ball wide to Mazzeo. It's a first-time ball in. Shot comes away. It's blocked. And a chance to drive here in Cuba. Puts Romero on the pace. Looking to use his body and some good defensive duties from Melbourne City. But still not over yet.
I think the ball's hit Nikovsky in the face and he's feeling it. And Michael Uliaris is immediately calling for City's physio to come look at him, as is natural whenever there's any concern over a head injury. Nikovsky himself does have ties to Preston. His brother Jackson is a former Preston Lions under-23s player, and it's a club that he grew up supporting. He was a Pascoval junior, but I'm sure today is a special occasion for him and his family, although he has previously played against them in the second tier. Of course, 2 years ago, Preston came out here and blitzed City 3-0 in what was a dominant display on their way to promotion, which they were able to culminate in round 26, not too far away from here at Lawton Park against Langwarrin, and they've never really looked back since. They've established themselves as a formidable force in the top flight, and given the start that they made this year, you'd expect them to be right amongst it come the end of the season, and not just in this competition, but will this year be the year that they make their mark in the Australia Cup as well?
Nikovsky back on the field, of course, coming into today's starting lineup for Liam Bonatig, who featured in the A-League squad for Melbourne City over in Auckland yesterday afternoon. Didn't see any match time. Nonetheless, he did travel. Mazzeo doesn't see the option on the body, and some good defensive work there from the right back in Kulshi. Cuba comes back to Negro. Comes all the way across to the centre of the park to Jamal Ali. You'd probably know better than myself, Demir, but I can't remember the last time I've seen Jamal Ali play as a centre-back in the Senol NPL.
Yeah, we'll probably have to go back to his either Dandenong Thunder or Tony Magic days.
He was certainly a mainstay in the right-back role at Heidelberg last season.
Do have to correct you, though. Liam Bonatig did play yesterday against
Oh, did he?
It came
I
on the
didn't watch it,
60s.
so there you go.
Came on the 67th minute for Suprine.
It's called research. As the ball's whipped in across the entire 18-yard box. Don Felino. And then short, Romero. Does well to hold it up. It's Jason Romero, much bigger body than the entire back line for Melbourne City this afternoon. So no doubt that'll play its part over the 90 minutes. Cuba comes in central. Romero trying to find a space. It's quite tight. And the shot, really a forced one there from George Malidis.
Yeah, going back to Michailidis, in terms of his player profile, he is quite a defensive midfielder who's quite technical and is able to maneuver his way through a press, and he's got good passing range to him as well. He has spent some time overseas in Austria with Austria Vienna, bookended by a couple of spells at Mel Victory's academy, which also included some game time last season in a 1-0 win for Preston against Victory, in which he certainly impressed Preston to the extent that they ended up signing him in the off-season, and he's capitalised with a few players in that position injured for Preston. I think looking at the likes of Kubalay and Chego and Payos, who's on the bench today, all more experienced, but he's definitely taking his opportunity well.
As we approach the 20-minute mark here at Control Cyber Campus, heading Casey Field, some good voice from the travelling Preston Lions fans. To be fair, Demir, not a bad effort from the Lions fans to come all the way across Melbourne. Probably the longest road trip they'd have to make all season, I'd say.
As someone who lives in the southeast, Bryce, you're probably underestimating the passion from the southeast Melbourne's Macedonian community for the Preston Lions. They'd be loving a fixture so close to home.
Romero gets on his left foot. Shots blocked at the back there from Ryan Calms, wearing the captain's armband this afternoon. As it sails to safety, Jamal Ali, and Aidan Bryce gets involved as well. Michailidis goes for a searching ball across the park. Just overhit to Leighton Brooks there.
Yeah, plenty of players in the Preston teams with some sort of academy connection, whether it's to City. Don Felino spent 3 full seasons playing for City's senior academy team. Zach Chianchi also made his senior debut for City back in 2022 and has a younger brother who plays in City's academy team, and the likes of Brooks and Michailidis, obviously previously at Mel Victory. Zinni and Payos, though, also have City academy ties, so a lot of familiarity between these two teams, not just having played against each other 2 to 3 seasons back.
McIntosh comes all the way back to his skipper in Ryan Calms. And just like his surname, decides just to relax things for a second here for Melbourne City, just to get some structure again. They really do like to try and get numbers high to Melbourne City, as they turn the ball over quite cheaply through Nikovsky. It's a chance for Leighton Brooks to try and get into the attacking half, but again, he turns it over as well. And I think the opening 22 minutes has really seen that feel-out period well and truly gone, and I suppose you could say to me, both teams are really trying to pull the trigger now when they get that chance to drive forward with a bit of pace.
Yeah, and I think that when it comes to both teams, there'll be plenty of conservation throughout the course of the 90, given the humidity. They're not going to go all out right from the first whistle. And, you know, as you saw 2 weeks ago, Preston were slow starters against Oakley. They were lucky to only be 1-0 down when Sian Kuba equalised. then ultimately finished the stronger of the two teams after that extraordinary disruption of play.
Romero with a great ball, and the offside flag goes up on time, and very tight call there, Demir. I actually thought Senol NPLM had timed that perfectly.
I think it would have been a line ball call because Matthew Baker came very close to playing him on there.
Yeah.
And with Senol NPLM, one of the best goal-scoring midfielders in the league, as we've seen over a number of years, the likes of Altona and Avondale. Definitely one of the first players that Zoran Markovski brought over to Preston, and got big expectations for him this season, but early days, and he is delivering on them.
Having seen a replay of the offside in front of us, definitely offside by about a yard or two. So good call from our assistant on the far sideline, as we see Beckham Baker just forced to put in a late challenge and does well to retrieve the ball. Of course, Beckham Baker, another one of the Melbourne City players that is today, is part of the A-League men's squad. Had a real breakout season in 2025, did Beckham Baker, and it's a chance here through Matthew Baker to get inside the box. Strike comes away, finds Lawrence Wong. Rather tame shot in the end. A chance to drive wide here from Cianci, who just dives on the ball. And also a strong challenge here beneath us. The coaching staff did not like that one, and all the players come running in. The coaches get involved too, and this is not what you want to see. It's going to take a few moments to settle this down as the coaches from both teams involved, ripped jerseys everywhere. Leighton Brooks still trying to carry things on.
Besian Kudleshi is going to be very lucky to stay on the park here because he's smashed the Preston player into the bench, and this is what's caused this scuffle. And it happened right in front of the Preston coaching staff, who are absolutely filthy with what's just happened.
You can see there's definitely a lot going on. Naoki Suta, wearing number 17, he's got blood streaming down the side of his face from the challenge. And it wasn't a great challenge from Kulchi, but you don't like to see the coaching bench for Preston Lions really get up. I know they're defending the actions against their player, but it really escalated things beneath us. And to be fair, there wasn't a player in the park that wasn't involved, and a coach, to me. So it's going to be very interesting to see what our referee does here this afternoon.
I think you have to take into account player safety there, and sure, that bump is fair on most other parts of the pitch, but when it's happening right into the bench and into that iPad stand, it can get very dangerous, hence why it is.
Well, there's a lot of sorting out. The fourth official is on the field with our referee. The assistant is sorting out the benches because they're still going at each other. And you can see that Besian Kulchi has been asked over from Melbourne City. Also, Jason Romero has been called in, and Aidan Bryce. So we've got a lot going on here.
Stuart McDonald is having a few choice words to the fourth official.
The benches,
because
well, they're still going at each other on the bench. And we're going to see a yellow card here. And it's going to be a straight red card for number 23, Besian Kurushi, for the challenge. So he's been sent straight off in the 26th minute. And he's got a very long walk in front of a lot of Preston fans on that fence. A yellow card to Jimmy Jego, the assistant coach for Melbourne City. And I think Sasha Ogzanovsky, the Preston Lions assistant coach, also got a yellow card. And
well, if what Stuart McDonald is claiming is correct, and I must admit I haven't seen it, but if it is, if a member of the Preston coaching staff did grab a City player by the throat, that member of the coaching staff should be off. I don't know who exactly it is.
Yeah. I can tell you, Demir, there was definitely a man in a black shirt grabbing a throat, but to whose hand and whose throat it was too hard to tell. And we're sitting right above this. So, it's all, I tell you what, if this game needed a spark, we've definitely lit the fuse. So, Melbourne City going to be forced to play at least 63 minutes with 10 men. And it's going to have to be a formation reconfiguration too for Melbourne City as they're right back has been sent off for an early shower. So it's resulted in a Preston free kick beneath us. And let's keep an eye on this next minute or two. It's also going to bring a change for Melbourne City. So it looks like it might be an attacking player of some sort that'll make way for Isaiah Boston, who's being ready beneath us. Play resumes here at Control Cyber Campus in Casey Fields. It's warming temps and warming feeling as well to see Negro come all the way back to Aiden Bryce.
Yeah, well, let's see if Preston can take advantage of this numerical superiority that they have right here in the first half, because City will sit back, but they're also a good ball-playing team that can keep the ball away from Preston.
And watching them firsthand last week, to me, their defensive structure was first-class Melbourne City, so it's going to take that same performance over the next 60 minutes or so. So we see McIntosh selling it. The only positive that you can take out of having a man sent off if you're Melbourne City is it's a right back, so it's not a crucial spine member.
It is a defender. It is a defender, though, and he's a pretty good defender. Give him that, Bessian Kutleshi. Just one of those moments where I think he'll need to mature from, because it was so unnecessary.
Lawrence Wong, he holds it up, invites in Polizidis. Into Baker, Wong. Trying to link up with Beckham Baker again. He does so. McIntosh, he'll get a strike away. It's not a bad one. Punched away by Ryan Scott.
It's important to note it is 10v10 at the moment, with Suto about to come back on with his head heavily bandaged.
Matthew Baker comes back to Beckham Baker. Wong. City being quite patient. This is what you'll get with Melbourne City with 10 men. They'll keep the ball as much as possible. It's in the club's DNA across all grades. So it's going to take a lot of maturity from these young boys, Demir, to see out the remaining minutes of this game.
And Isaiah Boston has been prepared to come on. It'll be slot into that right back spot. I do wonder who City will take off. You'd imagine it'd be one of their front three, but it's such a tough decision to make as to who exactly, given the quality that they've got. The likes of Beckham Baker, Tobias Servan, Ben Mazzeo.
It's interesting to see how these Melbourne City boys will go, because a lot of these boys will be training in and around the A-League men's squad too. So they are training with mature professionals on a regular basis. So don't underestimate the young teenagers in Sky Blue.
Yeah, I think Servant's a bit unlucky here to be the man making way, but it's probably the logical option given Zayo, Baker, Polizudis have all got plenty of pace, but also their defensive work rate's going to be quite important. Not that Servant's the type of striker who doesn't work hard defensively, but so often we see in these types of instances that it is a number 9 that is sacrificed. And I guess Mazzeo might be the player who's going to, together with Beckham Baker, be doing a lot of those runs in behind that Servant would have been doing when the opportunity presents itself.
Well, it also throws up a bit of a trickier opposition with Beckham Baker. He's probably a little bit more electric than you would say Servant is, in a respectful way, because he offers a lot in central and the wide area, so no doubt he'll be used quite heavily, as he's found straight away. Nice turn in the middle of the park against Cuba. He's trying to bring in Wong, use him again, and does well to get the second ball. Just turns it over, but that's not bad. It's a good sign of the formation change. Negro finds Miladies. Ali goes wide to Foligno. Leighton Brooks comes inside to the man's return, Ramiro. So it's Cuba with the strike, and he's sailed it over. As you can see, the knock there on Naoki Suto with his head bandage now. Doesn't seem to have affected anything in terms of concussion or whatnot.
It is quite scary, particularly given that laptop/tablet stand was there. What I think Suto made direct contact with.
I thought it might have been the corner of the chair. And you can see that Preston Lions like sitting right on that white paint, which basically gives them a metre to work with. So, as we see Matthew Baker coming back to his captain in Ryan Calms, who finds Lockie Charles. He's has been called upon too much so far in this game, has the Melbourne City goalkeeper.
Yeah, Bryce, I've just had another look of it. Suto's head makes quite forceful contact with that laptop/tablet stand.
Jaden Nikovsky. Comments beneath us from Zoran Markovsky saying that Melbourne City don't know what to do with it. Just let him have possession. Lawrence Wong drives into space, and he's found it quite well with a change of pace. Brings in Ben Mazzeo, who gets inside. He gets on his right foot, goes for the short chip, and sails over for a goal kick.
I think looking at that incident back again, I think Nikovsky does really well to get in between Kutleshi and the Preston coaching staff, because they were unhappy, and it might even be to Preston's benefit that he did that, because there may have been another red card issued out there. Such was their disdain at his actions, but anyway, let's move on with the game.
It's definitely worth noting there were members of the Preston Lions staff trying to diffuse things, but there was definitely someone that put a hand somewhere. But as you said to me, we'll move on, because the action on the park is what we're here to see, and it's been pretty good in the opening 36 minutes. Lockie Charles just using the option here just to give his 10 men, well, he's 9 men now rather, I should say, a bit of a breather. And you can see that Preston don't mind this. It's not absorbing a whole lot of energy for the men in the all-red strip this afternoon, just letting Melbourne City play around. Lawrence Wong turns the ball over with a miss-hit pass, and it comes all the way back to Nikovsky. Ryan Calms finds Wong again. And turns the ball over again, does Lawrence Wong. Foligno finds Ali. Bryce on the ball again. Some good defensive work there from the substitute. Isaiah Boston. Beckham Baker rides a challenge. And Suto on the ball again, now on the bandaged headband. Just gives away rather easily there, Demir.
Yeah, I think Preston haven't made the most of this numerical advantage just yet. I think City have been well positioned and well balanced so far. In fact, it actually looked like the most threatening of the two teams.
Boston and Mazzeo working well the link play.
Albeit one of those chances did come when it was 10v10 momentarily. As the man on the ball, Suto, was getting bandaged.
Was it a case, do you think, that Zoran Markovski's happy to see out his style of play until half-time and then reset things with a great searching ball from Aiden Bryce? He does well to find Gianchi. He's back Negro with a good delivery, and it's a good option there from Stefan Negro at the back post. And it looked like it was Naoki Suto with the bandage adding a bit of extra power maybe.
Look, I think ideally Zoran Markovski does not want to be turning to his substitutes when it's 0-0. I think he'd want a goal or two advantage given the 11v10 context of this game, but the luxury for him is that if that is the case, if they're level or dare I say even behind, he has got Markovski, Zini, Albano, Payos on the bench, even Matt Boz as a aerial threat.
He's not short of options, and Polozidis was in that occasion, and it's turned over to Sian Cuba. Just slows it down to invite some of his teammates into this one. Suto. This comes all the way back. Cuba goes central to Romero. Tries to get inside the 18-yard box. It's blocked by Boston. Museo helping out as well. Ball comes into the back post and it's going to sail over for a goal kick, and just some bit of angst between Negro and Aiden Bryce, just calling for that ball to be recycled, and it probably was the right call from the two defenders just to come back out because they had a lot of space to play with on the edge of this centre circle.
Yeah, I think both teams are still adapting to the change in game conditions. Lockie Charles launches it long. Yeah, it's going to be a pretty one-way battle if it's Mazzeo and Bryce aerially. Bryce, one of the best in the competition at that.
Sian Cuba gets on the edge of the 18, trying to find his space. Goes across to Leighton Brooks. What can Brooks do with it? Goes to his right, gets a strike away. Trickles across the face of goals. Lockie Charles didn't know too much about that.
The only thing I'd add about Sian Cuba there is if he was a metre or so in front of the ball as it's been played in, would have been a tap-in, but he may have been offside had that been the case. Brooks flashing it wide as he so often does on numerous occasions. You'll see a teammate latching onto it. Cuba quite close to that happening. And I know we've had a red card in this game so far, Bryce, but his brother Diego did cop one yesterday for playing for Green Gully against Avondale in what was a demolition job for the Avengers to kickstart their season. Gully in all sorts. I know you wanted to touch upon some of this week's results so far earlier on. That's probably the most eye-catching of the 6 games we've had so far, as we'll stick with play with Mazzeo in the attacking third.
They're doing well to enter their attacking half, Melbourne City, despite the numerical disadvantage in terms of troops on the park as we see Melbourne City come all the way back to Ryan Calms. Just asking for the options in front. Preston looking very comfortable with their setup. Boston searching for Mazzeo, and he'll find him with a good ball over the top of Negro. Comes to Lawrence Wong. Tries to create some space. He finds it. Beckham Baker with the strike. It's a good save from Ryan Scott at his near post. Play isn't over yet. And it is now courtesy of Leighton Brooks.
Yeah, it was good height for Ryan Scott. Didn't have to move too much as well. It was almost straight at him. That's the danger that City always possess with the likes of Beckham Baker, Mazzeo, Wong, Polizudis. All of those players do have a fierce shot in them. And I think Preston will be quite aware of the danger and not letting their guard slip defensively. I think so far they've been pretty good.
Matthew Baker getting involved in an attacking sense from left back for Melbourne City. Strike from distance. Good save down to his right from Ryan Scott. Decent strike. An effort from Nikovsky as well from a good 35 yards out.
Did mention the attacking options that Preston have on their bench. City's bench is also further level, given that they are younger players who would have established their own reputations in youth football. As we'll stick with play because Ali's marauding upfield.
He's run a good 35 yards to find Gianchi. He's going to try and get the strike on his left, and it's blocked. A crucial interception from the substitute, Isaiah Boston. And he's done well there. And Jamal Ali, as you alluded to, Demir, a good run out of his central defensive starting point. At least 45 yards of the ball there.
Yeah, trademark Jamal Ali. We saw so much of that last season at Heidelberg. It's no wonder that Preston were prepared to outbeat their rivals this off-season to secure his signature.
Ball comes in off the head. It's the first goal of the afternoon to Aiden Bryce. Unmarked on the edge of the 6-yard box. 44.5 minutes played, and it is 1-0 to the travelling Preston Lions.
Yeah, just as the fourth official puts up 4 minutes of injury time, not the way that City would have wanted to end the half after doing so well since being reduced to 10 men to limit Preston's attacking qualities. All it took was that one Jamal Ali run, which led Chianchi's effort to get deflected for a corner by Boston. Trademark Cuba delivery, and Bryce rising highest. His aerial prowess, dominant there, took advantage of it, and Preston have a 1 lead that you'd imagine they take into this break if they can keep the ship steady for another few minutes.
And watching the replay, Demir, a very clever run from the back post from Aiden Bryce, just to loop around Louis' defender, and one of the best attacking headers in the Senol NPL, just showing why. And it's a real blow to Melbourne City's coaching staff. Stuart McDonald would have loved to have gone into the halftime break with scores locked at 0-0.
One point I was making before Jamal Ali made that marauding run through the middle was City's bench does have a lot of attacking quality. You look at Akeem Gerald, who's only just turned 16 and he's played senior football already for a year or so. Roland Balla, who you would have seen last week, exceptional out wide, former Perth Red Star product, and Luke Bechmanovsky. We mentioned Nikovsky's ties to Preston, but it's also going to be a special occasion for Bechmanovsky if he comes on, because his father, Sash, goal scorer extraordinaire for many clubs within Victoria's top flight, is a former Preston Lions player himself, so expect to see him make an impact once he comes on, because he's definitely been a regular scorer of goals at an under-23s level over the last couple of seasons.
Negro with a switch of play to find Felino. Brings in Leighton Brooks. Good second ball across. Cut out by Ryan Calms. Brooks again. Just looking to get inside, and good ball inside the box. And Miladies goes to ground, and that will definitely be a penalty for the Preston Lions. Our referee left no option but to point to the spot.
Yeah, McIntosh got on the wrong side of Michalidis, who got to the ball first, felt the contact, went down, and I think there's little complaints from Melbourne City. Bit of a tired challenge as we're only a minute or so away from the halftime break, and City's misery could be compounded here if Romero can double their advantage.
And created from an exceptional ball from Leighton Brooks. And that run just not tracked of Michalidis. And it's going to be Jason Romero to step up from the spot. Preston would love to go into the break with a 2-goal advantage. And he finds it with ease in the bottom right-hand corner. Jason Romero, the number 9. Makes the score 2-0 in favour of the travelling Preston Lions as the halftime break creeps up on us.
I think Romero needs a goal. Bit of a frustrating first 45 minutes. Has struggled to get into the game, but sure he'll be going into the break with a lot of confidence after sending Charles the wrong way and doubling Preston's advantage. It's a player that when he's on, he's really on, can turn the game.
And I think it'll be a case of plugging some holes for Stuart McDonald's men at Control Cyber Campus this afternoon. We'll see Lockie Charles just really trying to take the sting out of this one as we approach the final minute of added time.
Yeah, I think as soon as Preston clear this, referee Michael Uliaris will call time, if not earlier.
I can tell you the fourth official's done quite well just to compact that stoppage we had in the 4 minutes, considering the lengthy break that we did have. And that will be the halftime break here at Control Cyber Campus. 2-0 in favour of Preston Lions. Demir Koulis, your thoughts on the first half?
Yeah, the game obviously changed with the Kutleshi sending off. I thought that for the first half of that first half, City had matched up quite well against Preston and were probably the better of the two teams. Definitely a few dangerous forays into the front third, but Preston, with that numerical advantage, were able to capitalise late in the half, and it's from the set piece where they hurt the City youngsters. Bryce with that header from Sian Kuba's corner, and then a tired challenge from McIntosh on George Michalidis allowed Jason Romero to double the advantage, and it's not one of those second halves that you're looking forward too much from a competitive standpoint because you think the game's already done. But if there's any team that I think can still cause others issues with 10 men, it's City, given the quality that they've got with some of these players. But they're up against a pretty formidable opponent in Preston with all the experience that they've got and a coaching staff led by Zoran Markovsky that, has seen things like this before and is able to really break the spirits of their opponents when they've got that numerical advantage.
We'll see what happens in the second 45 minutes here at Control Cyber Campus. It is round 3 of the Senol NPL Victoria, the final match of round 3. It's Melbourne City 0, Preston Lions 2. Welcome back to the second half of round 3 of Senol NPL Victoria. It's the final game of round 3 at Control Cyber Campus at Casey Fields in Melbourne's southeast. Bryce Ruthven, Demir Cools taking you through this one. And if you have just joined us, you have missed plenty of action in the first 45 minutes. But the main talking point is the score. It is Melbourne City 0, Preston Lions 2, and Melbourne City, Demir, with 10 men.
Yeah, and they're just about to bring Peter Antonu on, who will provide plenty of defensive cover, and he's come on for Matthew Baker. Antonu had a fantastic start to this A-League season when he came on in the first half for Nathaniel Atkinson in the first Melbourne derby and scored what proved to be the sealer for City in that game.
So Preston have remained unchanged.
Actually, they're going to be making a second substitution, and it's Akeem Gerald who's come on. I'm just trying to didn't see which number it was, but I think it might be Ben Mazzeo who's the player substituted. I don't see him on the pitch, and it is Mazzeo.
The second half gets underway here at Controlled Cyber Campus, home of the Melbourne City Football Academy. It'll be interesting to see how the home side approach this second half. Do they limit the damage, or do they try and take on Preston Lions, who are a very mature footballing side that have been fired up due to the incident involving Naoki Suta?
And I think we're looking for an explanation for the double change for Melbourne City, because they've already made 3 substitutions. They do have Asian Champions League elite commitments on Tuesday night against Buram, and a player like Mazzeo might potentially be involved. And you think 45 minutes against Preston would not exhaust him too much. There's potentially not too much to play for here in the second half, given Preston's lead and numerical advantage.
There's a good ball in from Dom Foligno. Jace Romero, they just tap behind. That does make sense to add another layer of that for me too, just to keep that freshness amongst the 10 men. They usually have youth in their side to run out a 90-minute game. But I suppose there's going to be a lot of defensive work, as we've seen good ball out tonight as well.
Yeah, and while the game may be lost, I think there's still plenty that Melbourne City can take out of this. Yes, it may be a case of damage limitation, but I think you'll get a lot of confidence if you can sort of match it with Preston in this second half and not let them extend their lead, given quality. As Foligno plays a great ball in, and Charles was alert to it.
Beckham Baker gets the ball and just finds the wrong option. You can see what he's trying to do, but just not on the same page. Akeem Gerald. Aiden Bryce. Scorer of the first goal of the afternoon from a corner to the Preston Lions, and a good ball through. Suto still with the bandage. Preston really boxing in. City. Suto with some great defensive work to win the ball back, and he's going to still keep it in favour. Foligno just turns the ball over as it is the 18-yard box. Beckham Baker just riding a late challenge from Foligno.
Thought that was unnecessary from Foligno. A couple of nervy moments that were both passed there by Lockie Charles, a goalkeeper who ended last season in superb form. He had a fantastic game late on in the season against Bulleen away that proved quite crucial in the promotion picture, and then in that promotion final against Brunswick City came up clutch in the penalty shootout.
Jamal Ali just settling things down with Don Foligno. Goes back to Ryan Scott. Adam Bryce. Going for a searching ball, and it's intercepted at the back. It comes out wide to the space of Leighton Brooks, who can enter the 18-yard box. Cuts it across to Romero. Great save with the right hand from Lockie Charles. As you just alluded to, Demir had a great season last year, and he's showing why he's in between the sticks for Melbourne City.
Yeah, he's a good young goalkeeper there. Goal-bound effort. Had to make a quick reaction and make a sharp save. And, you know, we often see in those instances keepers can get a hand to it, but not be forceful enough to prevent the goal from being scored. And Charles did well to divert that away for a corner. You know, it's probably something that in Victorian football at the moment there perhaps aren't enough reliable and confident young goalkeepers, but Lockie Charles is definitely an exception.
It's young Cuba driving it to the back post again, looking for Aiden Bryce. Stefan Negro finds Bryce again. Finds Suto. Brooks. Halidi's also getting involved with Brooks again. And Lawrence Wong has time to turn and overruns the second ball. Jamal Ali can use his left-hand side. He does now. Cianci goes to ground, and it's going to be a goal kick.
It's definitely not the same sort of impact that he had in the opening 2 weeks of the season from Cianci. I think he's been kept quiet quite well by Boston, who came on in the aftermath of that red card. I thought Kudleshi was doing a pretty good job up until his dismissal on him as well.
And Akeem Gerald just caught flat-footed there for Melbourne City. Well kept in from Lawrence Wong. Chance for Polizidis to drive into the 18-yard box. Gets a tame cross to Gerald. It's turned over. Well won back, though, for Melbourne City.
Yeah, that's where you're probably missing that extra player right in the middle there that a Tobias Servant could have been. What Polizidis did pretty well there, but Antonu's possession.
An ambitious attempt there from Peter Antonu. Goes out for a goal kick, and you've watched the Senol NPL for a number of years now, Demir, and you've seen plenty of situations where teams have had 10 men. Does it come to a point where Melbourne City try and take on the game a bit and sort of promote maybe a defender forward into the midfield? Or
I mean, they can. The problem is that Preston is quite stacked when it comes to the quality that they've got on the park, players that can exploit any space that's given to them. And as we alluded to on multiple occasions during that first half, that bench, Zinni, Markovsky, Albano, players that have scored double digits per season on a number of instances in this league, who will hurt you if you give them the chance. And that's what City will be wary of in case they try and commit too many men forward.
Stefan Negro committing himself forward on that left flank. He gets rewarded with the run. And can't find his intended target in Zach Cianci.
I think we're about to see some changes from Preston, and if I can read the sub-slips from this vantage point correctly, I think you're about to see Jonas Markovsky come on for Jason Romero. Maybe one of two changes that Preston look to make.
That's not a bad option. A man with A-League experience last season with the Brisbane Roar, Jonas Markowski. Lockie Charles finds a central pass and it works out well, and Lawrence Wong does well to settle it and invite his midfield around. Probably the wrong option there from Polizidis. You have just joined us, Melbourne City playing with 10 men at the moment as we see Jaden Nikovsky come central to Wong. Trying to look for Gerald. It's a chance to break forward here. Jason Romero for Preston with a good ball in behind for Leighton Brooks, and Lockie Charles all over it, the young goalkeeper. See Wong. Brings in McIntosh. Nikovsky. Working it in. Isaiah Boston. 3 changes made so far after the straight red card in the 25th minute to Bessie and Kulchi, the right back.
The good thing for Melbourne City in terms of emptying out the bench is that they've got another 2 substitution windows to do that, should they decide to, as Baker does quite well to get away from Brooks.
It's Beckham Baker, plays it short to Antonu, comes across to McIntosh. The strike blocked, ends up with Boston. Suto intercepts there and drives forward on the left-hand side from Zach Cianci. Goes to ground, Suto collects a passo. Back to Cianci again. Negro. Wants to be a ladies who spreads it to Cuba. It's wide to Brooks. Sting taken out of that pass from Melbourne City. And Romero blocked again. Leighton Brooks trying to get a shot away. Does so, and he regathers, puts it across. It's not a bad option. And Zach Cianci just caught behind his defender, and it sails out for a goal kick.
Still a few moments away from Preston making that change. Might also see City change to come shortly.
It's interesting just watching Preston Lions here, just not committing. It's not too often you see about 5 or so yards between a goalkeeper and 2 strikers just standing off, but due to 10 men, they're happy to just stand off a little bit. The Lions. It's just interesting seeing Zoran Markovsky just asking John Cuba just to keep an eye on Lawrence Wong, because he's one player that can cause some damage, and he's been given a lot of room in the middle of the park. He hasn't really been their go-to focus to start that transition play in the first 56 minutes of this game, to be.
Yeah, I mean, looking both Wong and Polizidis are playing quite high up in comparison to McIntosh, and Antonu's actually dropped in to that holding role to support McIntosh. Some nice team in play here from City with Baker on ball.
Baker drives across the 10-yard box and he turns back to where he came from. Finds Antonu, comes across to McIntosh, out wide to Gerald. And not a bad attempt.
I think that was Polizidis after a great cross in from Boston.
And it's interesting to see how you alluded to Peter Antonu, the left back, who's come on as a substitute, drifting central. It kind of just goes back to what I mentioned to you a couple of minutes ago, to me, about promoting a player forward, and maybe Stuart McDonald and Jimmy Jago have said, let's try and guard him a little bit more. Don't just keep possession without promoting the ball forward. So good signs from Melbourne City. Still, it is a 2-goal deficit. See Suto driving down the left flank. Finds Cianci, and it's going to be offside.
I think there's a handball against Boston as he slid through. Or no, You are correct, Bryce.
Yeah,
beg your
offside.
pardon. I think Boston initially was a bit dismayed by that call, but ultimately referee Michael Liaris clarifying that it was for an offside in indirect free kick.
Mikovsky drives it forward to Boston, who himself can get to the edge of the 18-yard box. Happy to maintain possession, and the ball does come across rather dangerous and has to be dealt with by Dom Foligno. And you can see off camera at the moment, Lockie Charles, the Melbourne City goalkeeper, just down on this pristine surface here at Control Cyber Campus.
Yeah, Sam Robson, the second choice goalkeeper, has been sent from the bench to warm up. Bella's about to come on for City, a player who's been part of their youth setup for a number of seasons. This is his third senior campaign. A player who originally came to the club from Perth, where he played for Perth Red Star, formerly known as ECU Joondalup.
It looks like, at least for the time being, Demir, that Melbourne City's goalkeeper, Lockie Charles, is going to remain on the pitch. So we'll keep an eye on him over the next few moments. And it's going to also bring on a substitution for both teams.
So Emil Payos will be coming on for Preston, as will Stefan Zinni. So two players with Melbourne City youth team links. Zinni himself did play for the A-League team, and Markovsky's the other man who's going to come on.
I think there's a bit of confusion here whether the subs are going to be made. The three Preston Lions players are keen to get in the park, no doubt.
So the subs coming off for Preston will be Jason Romero for Jonas Markovsky, Zach Chianchi off for Stefan Zinni, and George Michailidis off for Emil Payos. I think Michailidis is the youngest player in that Preston starting 11, has had another competent and capable performance in the centre of the park. The only teenager in that starting 11 up against a team full of teenagers in City.
It's also worth noting too, Demir, Lawrence Wong also got an early mark during that list of substitutions.
Yeah, potentially another player who's in contention to be in the matchday squad on Tuesday, and almost a calamity moment there from Nikovsky. Got a bit fortunate, a heavy touch wasn't punished by the Preston attack. Calms did well to...
Sorry, Demir, about this Preston Lions team and the firepower they've got off the bench. It's three exceptional players to add into the team lineup in 60 minutes of a game, particularly up against 10 men as well. So I'd expect them to ramp up a little bit here from the Lions.
Yeah, top flight audiences may be quite familiar with Markovsky and Zinni, given their exploits in the league. Less so with Payos, who played half season last year before suffering this season-ending injury at Preston, and before that was a bit-time player at South Melbourne, but so we'll stick with play.
See Beckham Baker trying to find a space, and he does so on the left-hand side. Comes across, it's a good ball in from Ballard. Ends up in the hands of Ryan Scott, who has an exceptional throw to the halfway line to unleash Stefan Zinni. Puts an early ball in. It's intercepted by Misevsky. Not fully over yet, the danger. Sian Cuba sprints to the ball, gets inside the 18-yard box, and a crucial interception there from Peter Antonu from left back.
Had a nervy moment a couple of minutes ago, Nikovsky, but I thought he was class there to prevent the cross and then make a timely block on Zinni's follow-up effort. But back to Payos. 3 years ago, he was part of this Melbourne City senior team, and it's probably their best performer in a VPL 1 campaign under Christian Kristevsky. It's definitely looking to make up for lost time following injury last season, derailing his campaign, and perhaps an unhappy spell at South the season before, because he's another player that's got plenty of quality. The luxury Preston have is Brooks.
Yeah, Leighton Brooks going one-on-one. McIntosh, the latter doing his defensive duties well. Still trying to play it out, the Melbourne City youngsters. Antonu just pops in the air, it's still in play. Bellino does well to beat his man. Markovsky with the strike. Suto is back to Pios, and Markovsky stretching for it and can't find it. It's going to be given a corner.
I think Melbourne City are quite confident with Lockie Charles and his ability to finish this game, because they're about to bring on Luke Bechvanovsky, as mentioned earlier this game. His father, Sash, former Preston Lions player, amongst many other teams in Victorian football, where he was a goal-scoring extraordinaire, and it's good to see that his younger son has followed in his footsteps so far in his young career. Of course, his brother Alec, currently at Pascoe Vale, also played for City.
Ball comes to the back post. Cleared out by Beckham Baker. Negro finds Aidan Bryce. Good ball central. Leighton Brooks goes for the ambitious attempt and it goes over the crossbar, and it'll be an introduction for Luke Bekvanovsky, replacing Beckham Baker. So that's all the substitutions made for the home side here at Control Cyber Campus this afternoon. Comes out to Bella. Isn't a bad ball up the line for the substitute for his first involvement. But it turns out Naden Bryce with a superb ball across to Stefan Zini, who drives at pace, gets inside the 18-yard box. Finds Suto, and it just skips across the right foot. It remains in play with Leighton Brooks. A tired pass there from Brooks. There's Cuba, Pios. Cuba to the back post, finds Zini, strikes it, and couldn't quite get the connection he was looking for, Stefan Zini.
While this lead does look quite comfortable for Preston at this moment, they'd be conscious of putting the game away by adding a third, because all it takes is one goal and City is right back into this fixture, and they've had a few forays forward this half where they have looked threatening, most notably that Akeem Gerald header.
Aidan Bryce, the strong header, to find Pios. Zini. Pios again. Ali. One's Felino. He comes central, back to Ali. Suto drives forward, finds Leighton Brooks, heavy touch, and it works out in favour for City. And it's interesting watching Melbourne City trying to play out, particularly through Lockie Charles. Obviously, that numerical advantage, or disadvantage rather, I should say. Just trying to open up the lines for Preston, just to try and play through, given they are down that man, and they have been for majority of this game, or at least from the 25th minute anyway.
Yeah, it's been most of the game by now, and still think they've equipped themselves pretty well. But, you know, they did for most of that first half after the red card up until those final 5 minutes, and that's the 5 minutes that have proved so crucial to the state of proceedings here.
Yeah, and that's the pressure that Preston are just applying, or to be fair, the lack of pressure they just applied, just forced in the mistake in the Melbourne City defensive line. No doubt Zion Markovsky would be very happy to see how this one's playing out, even though you said to me the game really isn't buried just yet, but it could be now. Jonas Markovsky driving, gets a shot away, and sails over the right-hand upright.
Ryan Calms applied enough pressure towards the end to get Markovsky off balance and force the shot just wide and wayward. Sure, Markovsky would be hoping to get on the score sheet. A player who we saw a few years ago win the Golden Boot with 19 goals to his name.
Again, Preston happy just to sit off, force Melbourne City to play.
Be looking to be the second Markovsky to score this week after his brother, well, Markovsky from that particular family to score after his brother Josh scored for Essendon Royals the other night in a 2-1 win over Springvale White Eagles in VPL 2.
And Peter Ansner just forced into the long option. And you can see that this 10-man Melbourne City just starting to fatigue a little bit now. The substitutes bench has been cleared out. Mo Ali just slips on the surface here. That's a chance to break forward. Bekvanovsky gets a strike away. Ryan Scott pretty calm in the end on collection.
It's the danger that Luke Bekvanovsky presents. Very capable of driving towards goal and getting a shot away as Payos.
See Leighton Brooks, good touch to set himself, but unfortunately Dom Felino not on the same page.
I do wonder if Jamal Ali is going to spend a bit of time at fullback with Matt Bosnovsky, a potential option to come on, and you can do a reshuffle there and get Ali playing fullback if you do take off, Felino. But I think he's had a pretty steady game at right back.
Melbourne City end up back with Lockie Charles, who seems to have recovered well from going down about 10 minutes or so ago. So we see Isaiah Boston. Kim Gerald as well, trying to work together. It comes back to Nikovsky. Finds McIntosh. Put in a fair shift this afternoon has Angus McIntosh navigating the midfield for Melbourne City. A chance here for Balla. Finds Antonou. More than happy to come central is the substitute left back. He did start last weekend in their round 2 fixture at Dandenong City.
About to see Gian Albano come on for Preston. He's been readied. I'd imagine he comes on for Leighton Brooks.
Boston. Driving in, he finds Gerald. two looking to work together again. A ball from Gerald. It's not a bad option. Shouts of handball, and it's been flagged as offside. Thought for a moment there, Demir, it was going to be given a penalty. With some good delivery from Akeem Gerald. And it will bring on the substitution here for the Preston Lions, and it will be Leighton Brooks coming off with his replacement, Gian Albano. We'll see out the remaining 16 minutes or so plus stoppage time.
Yeah, it's a good ball in. Definitely strikes Shamal Ali's hand. Would have been a penalty, you imagine, had it not been for the offside.
It did look like our referee had the whistle to his mouth and then looked to his right shoulder and saw the flag up. So, a bit unfortunate for Melbourne City.
Sometimes you need a bit of luck to go your way when you're down a man, and City haven't really had that this afternoon.
Jamal Ali comes out wide. Goes searching with a good option there, Jamal Ali. Chance to drive into the centre of the box. Albano, and he loses out. Not over just yet. And it will be a free kick.
Could have posed a question to you, Bryce, but in terms of the game and the best players so far this afternoon, I've probably been impressed by both sets of centre-backs, to be honest, particularly Bryce and Ali. They've been the two best players of the game, potentially. But even Nikovsky and Carms, I think, have had pretty good games.
Yeah, definitely. I think Aiden Bryce, you know what you're going to get with him week in, week out. He's delivered another performance this afternoon. But, yeah, very impressed with the two Melbourne City centre-backs in Carms and Nikovsky, even though the scoreline is 2-0 in favour of Preston Lions, as we see Pios, the drive forward. You'd probably have to look in favour of Aiden Bryce, so given his contribution to the scoreboard with the first goal of the game from the corner. As we see Lockie Charles looking to settle things in. As the weather is starting to turn a little bit here at Casey Fields.
Definitely going to regret parking quite a walk away from Control Cyber Campus as the rain starts pouring.
Yeah, and the wind has definitely swung in favour of Preston Lions as well. See Gian Albano driving into the centre of the centre space there and turns it over. McIntosh looking a bit tight. Drive forward through Balla. Not a bad option through. Polazudis goes to ground. A mixture of fatigue and maybe a slight bump.
I think he's cramping up there. I feel like he did get a touch from Ali that he then tried to exaggerate via a fall. But he's had his moments today, Christian Polazudis, without the end product, but I think you've seen enough from him to suggest that it's going to be a handful for a lot of opposition defences and midfields throughout the course of this season. Player who they picked up from Western United in the off-season, but one who spent most of his career up until this point at Mel Victory in their junior academy.
So you see Pios with a chance to drive into the space, finds Suto. And some good defensive work there from Ryan Carms, the captain for Melbourne City. He goes to ground, and it will be a free kick in a good area. And you can't really blame any of the players for feeling a bit fatigued, given the majority of the first half was played in close to 30 degrees, and it's still sitting on about 25, 26 degrees here at Control Cyber Campus. Bit of rain starting to come down just to give a bit of relief for the players. Not great for our cameraman out in the elements while we're under a roof.
let's hope this is the worst of it, as Petronovsky is going to be over this set piece and take it. Good opportunity for Melbourne City to get one back, half the deficit, and make a game of it in the last 15 or so minutes when you include whatever's expected of stoppage time.
That's Luke Bekmanovsky to deliver this one. Goes to the penalty spot. Balla. He delivers again to the back post. There's an option there, and it's Ryan Carms. Gets the first header. Dealt with by Aidan Bryce on the second attempt. Suto looking to go via feet when he could have used the chest. Pulls the Melbourne City player to ground. Waved away. That's a bit surprising.
I think whenever you see a shirt pulled like that, you expect a free kick. And now the Melbourne City bench is, I think, rightly furious about that one, given that the one on Petronovsky a few moments ago wasn't called. I mean, it was a clear shirt grab from Suter on Petronovsky that wasn't given, and then the foul on Zinni, which was a foul, does get given.
Yeah, I think if you're going to give the second one, the first one probably should have been given as well. But still time for Melbourne City as we approach 80 minutes in Cranbourne.
Look, referees do have it tough. If you do miss one and you get another one for the opposing team in such quick succession, it does weigh in your mind whether you go with the two wrongs make a right approach, but often can sort of lead to hostilities inflaming and the next challenge being one that's over the top. As we see plenty of people rushing for cover as the rain again trickles down.
And the good thing here with the hybrid pitch, a control cyber campus and a speed play up, which will suit both teams. More so Preston Lions with the numerical advantage on the park. Ryan Scott hasn't been called upon too many times in his second half. Used again, the goalkeeper comes wide. Polino comes forward to Markovsky. Good touch inside to Suto. Got Albano on the left. He decides to use that option, and he's going to be flagged in offside. Hard to tell from our angle, but he's in a much better position than what we are up here, Demir.
Yeah, no doubt. And if there's anyone who's in the best position to call it, it would be the assistant referee.
It's a shame because it was a good option from Suto to go wide to Albano, but nonetheless, we can see Nikovsky coming out.
Yeah, if there's one thing that would frustrate Zoran Markovsky and his coaching staff in this second half is that Preston haven't been able to find that killer third. It may still happen for them. We've played 82 minutes now and there's still 10 or so minutes of football left. But the concern is that sloppiness may come back to haunt them if City get one and then ramp up the intensity as they're doing now.
The Albano going all the way back to Ryan Scott. Going direct. On the other hand too, for Stuart McDonald, Demir, could be ruining that 5-minute period at the back end of the first half. The story can look very different going in at 0-0. As you've said, Preston Lions have really kind of gone down a gear to a degree, but at the same time too, holding him out would have been crucial going into that half-time break. Stuart McDonald's men, as we see Balla turn over the ball in the middle of the park. Ryan Carms with a great defensive save there from centre-back. Antonu still driving forward. Chance to strike, it's a good one. Saved by Ryan Scott. Hakeem Gerald. A lot of power.
See a very frustrated Jimmy Jago on the Melbourne City coaching staff. Of course, player who not that long ago announced his retirement from playing and is assisting Stuart McDonald this season. They've also got Rani Dawisha, a name that many top flight followers over the years will be familiar with, former Green Gully goalkeeper as their goalkeeper coach.
McIntosh, he comes central. Nikovsky on the right. Boston decides to use him now. Boston again, drives. Ball comes in. Cleared out by Foligno. Hand in the back there, not acknowledged from our referee. Ryan Calms probably taking the wrong option there, and great defensive save there from Nikovsky.
Goal saving. Preston would have scored a third goal.
Gerald on the right hand side, forced to hold it up. Comes back to Boston. He gets a strike away and just leaning too far back and sails over the crossbar.
Yeah, a heavy touch there from Boston. Didn't do him any favours, and ultimately, as you've alluded to, when he got the shot away, he was leaning back and never got a clean hit. Want to go back to something in the first half during that scuffle that was had. I think I did make the implication that the Melbourne City bench were noting to the fourth official that a Preston coaching staff member grabbed someone by the throat. Have since been told that it wasn't a coaching staff member, but perhaps a substitute who may have done that. And the chaos that occurred there.
I think how anyone could have got that right in the time. It was, as you said, utter chaos with 20 people involved in a scuffle. So will be the final substitution of the afternoon for the Preston Lions. Coming on, Matt Bozanovsky, John Cuba.
Yeah, Bozanovsky went off injured in the first half a couple of weeks back against Oakley. And this will force a bit of a reshuffle with Aidan Bryce going into the number 6 role, as the instructions came from Zoran Markovsky for him to slot in front of Bozanovsky and Jamal Ali, who will occupy the centre of defence.
Ball comes in, substitute called upon straight up. Antonu, forced, and the wind just catches that left foot cross. The ball comes long. Markovsky is onside. And Lockie Charles had to read that perfectly, but he's off his line. A chance for Zenit to have a shot, and that is a goal. It's going to be a free kick against Jonas Markovsky. I missed it, Demir.
I'll have to say that one again, because like you, I was watching the ball, and I think the Preston bench were of the opinion that Charles had actually fought.
Oh, yeah, we've seen the replay.
Okay, I think
Lockie Charles, yeah.
I think what's happened there is Markovsky's tried to be clever.
Yep.
Made movement towards Charles, which constituted a foul himself, and then Charles sort of basically pushes him away, or pulls him away, pulls him aside, and look, there's not much in it, but you know, Markovsky doesn't need to be doing that. He's
They got a yellow card for it too.
Yeah.
I don't think Stefan Zini won't be too happy. It was a clean strike and wasn't really required.
Yeah, Zini didn't need Markovsky's intervention there to find the back of the net, because Lockie Charles, who's been so good this second half through his positioning, was in no man's land.
Balla continues his drive forward. Does well to win. Throw in. Shouts for corner. And as we sit in the 88th minute, you have just joined us. Melbourne City playing with 10 men at Control Cyber Campus, courtesy of a straight red card in the 25th minute to Bessian Kulchi, the right back for Melbourne City. And Jonas Markovski does well to get in front of Ryan Carms. Carms again doing a great job. And Stefanzini enters the box. Now it's the goal he was looking for moments ago. 3-0 Preston Lions, courtesy of Stefanzini, and that will be the game.
Zinni gets the goal he deserves. Clever finish over Charles to kill the game. And it's been one of those performances by Preston. They wanted to start this season off like a house on fire, and that's exactly what they've done. If you think about the fact that they had the championship, which took them really into the end of November, not much of a pre-season, under a new coach with a lot of player turnover, and points deductions aside, they've started 3 from 3, and they've needed to in order to get themselves back into contention.
Joan Albano with a heavy touch, and we'll see Melbourne City looking to drive forward. And even though the scoreboard does say 3-0 in favour of Preston Lions, it has been a lot tighter, considering Melbourne City have had 10 men for 2/3 of this game. So the scoreline, in my opinion anyway, doesn't really, I guess, explain how tight the game has been at different stages.
Yeah, and I think we see these games from time to time, particularly involving younger teams. I do remember one last year that Zoran Markovski coached in between Avondale and Mel Victory, where similarly Victory got an early red card which changed the complexity of the game. Avondale ended up winning 4-1, but it was a lot closer than that, as we see a clean challenge there from Payos, who's looked quite good since coming on.
Preston have the numbers to get forward here with some purpose, and they decide to hold things up through Payos. It's back to Negro.
I think City, in terms of their performance, they definitely haven't been disgraced. I think they've been in the game for much of it, and I think the disappointing thing for them is up until that 25th minute send-off, they were more than holding their own against a very experienced and formidable Preston team. And given that they've got 4 points in the bank, it's not a result that you'll ultimately be too down about, with, more games to come.
It's a good ball through. Apollozoudis does well to keep it in. Finds Gerald. Ball comes in, cleared by Aiden Bryce.
I hope that's cramp for Apollozoudis, because he's definitely fallen down and is feeling the worst of it. He's trying to make his way back up onto the pitch.
The result in a corner.
City have used up all 5 of their changes. That was my concern when you saw that incident with Charles, where Charles was potentially going to get a red card called against him, because they would have been down to 9 men without the ability to bring on a second choice keeper. But it was a Markovski foul first. And Apollozoudis is back up. So the physio goes over to attend him.
So the injured Melbourne City players off the park in the hands of the physio. Allows for the corner to be taken by Bekvanovski. So the ball comes in. Markovski gets first touch to it and ends up winning. Thrown in his advantage, and a quick throw taken by Markovski finds Zini, who misreads it. Knocks over Isaiah Boston in the process. Much to the angst of the Preston supporters next to their bench. Antonu taking himself into no man's land and is held on by Zini. Come back to Lockie Charles. Charles forced to go long. The breeze holds it up. I think the positive for Stuart McDonald is out of their 3 rounds that they've had so far in the Senol NPL, they're holding their own in terms of physicality against some much bigger bodies, as we see Stefan Zini playing with Felino. Comes across, and it's going to sail out for a throw-in. And Melbourne City keep it in, so it won't go out for the throw. And that will be full-time here at Cyber Control Campus. It is the Preston Lions with a dominating score on the scoreboard, 3-0 over Melbourne City. But in terms of the 90 minutes, Melbourne City playing a large chunk of it with 10 men. And Demir, your thoughts on this game?
3 weeks, 3 wins, 3 goals in each of the games for Preston. I think if you're a Lions fan, you'd be very impressed with the start your team has made. Quite a comprehensive display, despite some of the mitigating circumstances of City going down to 10 men just after the halfway point of the first half. As we said, Ryan Scott acknowledging the vocal, travelling, active support who definitely made today's fixture more boisterous, and ultimately for Melbourne City disappointing. But some of these players may potentially be involved on Tuesday night in what is a massive night for the club, and ultimately their A-League team, it's must win basically every week for the remaining 7 fixtures that they've got. And in amongst that, they've also got, of course, an NPL season, their debut season in top flight, where they'll learn a lot about themselves and get better, and I'm sure they'll take a lot out of today's performance, even if it's not necessarily reflected on the scoreline, where it's quite a comprehensive 3-0 win for Preston.
And that does bring round 3 of the Senol NPL Victoria to a close. It's been Bryce Ruthven and Demir Coolers taking you through this action here from the Control Cyber Campus in Cranbourne. The final score, Preston Lions 3, Melbourne City 0.